the chat. Let's start the show.
Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to another episode of the Happy Hour Show with your host, Lindsey Vertner. That's me. And I am so happy to have you here on this fine Thursday evening. And I'm going to introduce my guest in just one moment. But if you are tuning in, I need you down in the comments, engaging in the discussion, and let us know where you're tuning in from. And you already know that you got to comment, love, and share this show out, okay? Because we're always dropping life gems for your life and business gems for your business and all in between. If you're watching right now as we speak, then comment all the way live. Hey, boo, I see you. And if you're catching the replay later on, that's okay. We still love you. Comment replay all day, okay? Now, for those of you that don't know who I am, my name is Lindsey Vertner, and I am a peak potential strategist and transformational speaker. I teach ambitious, busy female entrepreneurs and leaders just like you how to master their mindset and increase their self-care, self-worth, and self-discipline. That is my jam. I am all about empowering women to live their first-class life full of purpose, fulfillment, and happiness. I help them to maximize their potential and fully, unapologetically pursue their passions. That is what I do. And I see y'all already coming in here in the comments. I'm super excited to have you. Make sure that you sign up for show updates at bit.ly/happy updates. And let me go ahead and begin to introduce my guest. And I see you. Hey, Madonna. Welcome. Thanks for tuning in. She is tuning in all the way live from Nashville. Oh my goodness, Madonna, you are in Nashville, Tennessee. Girl, we gonna have to talk for real, okay? Thank you for tuning in. Make sure you comment, love, and share this show out. But now, let me introduce my guest, okay? Her name is Deandra Coleman, and she helps determined women level up their lifestyle and flip their comeback story into a profitable brand. As a CEO and creative director of 6 Zeros Brand Studio, she believes that your personal story is what calls in your tribe of followers. She started off as a single mother on welfare and grew into the woman she is today, where she's been the top VIP professional under 40, leading woman under 40. She's been on HGTV and featured in the Washington Post, and she's got a master's degree, y'all. She's got the beauty and the brains. And listen, enough about all that. Let's go ahead and bring her up to the stage. Hello, Deandra. How are you?
Hi, I'm great. How are you?
Good. Thank you for being a guest on the Happy Hour Show. And I know I just gave the people a quick little rundown, but you are so phenomenal. We couldn't fit it all in an intro. But I want you to tell the folks, who is Deandra really? Give them the real tea on where'd you come from, what you doing, how'd you get to where you are now? Well, don't say that part yet, but tell the folks who you are.
So again, I am Deandra Coleman. I am a native New Yorker. I currently live in Maryland. I will never say that I'm from Maryland, though. I've been here for 20 years, but I am a New Yorker. So everybody has to understand that. And if you're from New York, you understand what that means. Let's see. I'm a mom. My son Tristan is 12, and I'm a dog mom. Chase Kyla Ren is crazy as well. So I am constantly in the house, getting hurt, boy mom life, that sort of stuff. But yeah, I don't know. I'm just living life, quite honestly. I have been on the other side of life not being so great. And now on this side, I just love to enjoy every moment of it. And there are certain things that I kind of just live by now, like laughter, like that's a part of my everyday life, and rest. Like I wholeheartedly believe in rest without guilt. So that's like part of my personal brand values. But yeah, I just enjoy, what I do, how I'm living, where I live, and the people who are in my life on a daily basis.
Sweet, sweet. So first, let's talk about this background, because you said you've been in New York for 20 years, but you came from, you said Maryland?
No. You got to flip. I grew up in New York and I've been in Maryland for 20 years. Yeah.
Okay. Little audio dyslexia there, right? So you're in Maryland, you came from New York. What took you to Maryland from New York?
Yeah, so I went to college here. I went to the University of Maryland, Terp Nation, and I decided to stay after college because I graduated in early 2000s when DC was not as expensive as New York was to live, right? So I was like, oh, I'll just stay in the DC, Maryland area. No big deal. I'm not going back to New York. It's too expensive to live. And then housing prices shot through the roof here too, right? So it was like a no-win situation, but I decided to stay, and 20 years later, here I am.
Sweet, sweet. Now, there's something very specific about your story that I absolutely love, because you didn't always have it all together. And I know that it's been a wild year for a lot of people. Yeah. Between COVID and politics and everything in between. A lot of people been just maintaining and trying to keep up their sanity, and some people are thriving, but then there's those groups of folks that's feeling like the world is crumbling down. So I'm sure you probably know what I'm hinting at, but I know that you didn't always have it roses where you are now. So kind of take us back to your story and how you got to where you are today.
Yeah, so I'd have to take it back probably a good, 12, 13 years, quite honestly. My son is 12. And I unexpectedly found myself pregnant with my son. And I was like, oh crap, what is life? What am I doing? This is not part of my plan by any means. I actually was applying and had gotten accepted to go back to school for interior design, which was a latent talent. So I had already gotten my undergrad degree in communication, and I was like, I don't really want to do that, right? So I was like, I'll just go back to school and get another degree, no big deal. And so I was going for interior design, and lo and behold, I found myself pregnant, and my world just like completely blew up. So that was in 2008. Early 2008. And by the time my son was born at the end of 2008, the world had literally blown up, right? And like the depression was happening, the recession was going on, and the housing markets were crashing and all of that sort of stuff. And I found myself out of a job. Like I had been in the design industry in events. And when all of that stuff started happening, my positions were the first ones to be eliminated because it was fluff, right? It was all of the pretty stuff that people no longer had the budget for. And so I found myself unemployed. My son was literally like a month or 2 months old. And so I was the girl who went from like living life carefree before my son, buying 2 new pair of shoes a week, just like living it up, to the girl online, for food stamps and, medical assistance and all of this stuff that I needed in order to take care of my son and myself, because I had no job and no prospects of a job, because all that I knew was design, right? And the world was not checking for design at that time.
Wow. Like there's something there that I want to point out. If you're just tuning in, you are watching the Happy Hour Show with Lindsey Vertner and my special guest, Deandra Coleman. And in case the folks in the balcony missed it, you went from living lavishly, so to speak, right? To filling out applications for food stamps and things like that. So one, how humbling was that experience for you? Because I know sometimes, especially whenever you are having a well-off type of lifestyle, it can be very much a struggle to be vulnerable enough to say, I need help, especially when you got to turn to the government assistance and take it even further than just asking a friend or family member for help, but actually applying for government assistance. Like, it's one thing to grow up in that, but then it's another to have to take a step backwards, so to speak. So what was that moment for you?
Yeah, I'm really glad that you asked that question, because I did not grow up with on welfare or even really truly knowing the full notion of it. So I grew up on Long Island, New York, in a very wealthy town, though my family was not very wealthy. I grew up around abundance, right? So I grew up with, I grew up in a town on the North Shore of Long Island that was very rich, very white, and very Jewish. And I was often the only Black girl in class, right? So I'm like the Black girl that people look at during Black History Month, like, do you know him? You know, like, no, you know, right? So that was me. So I came from that life, and, you know, went through college and did everything the right way, right? And I'm going to use air quotes with the right way. So this was not anything that was in my my sphere of knowledge. And so when it happened, it was very much, I'll say this, it was a shock to the system. Like, oh crap, I can't believe that I'm here. Like, how did I get here? But there really was no hesitation on my part, because I had my son, for me to do what I needed to do in order to get the assistance that I needed. And I'm a very proud person, you know, so I almost rathered going and just doing everything myself and applying for what I needed to apply for than to ask my family for help. That was secondary, asking my family for help, right? Because I had always been the self-sufficient person who could do it all. And I did not want to have to go to my family, though they were very helpful and they did whenever I needed them, right? But I was the person that never wanted to go to my family, call it pride, call it ego, whatever it was back then. I just, you know, was like, all right, well, I had the kid, he's my responsibility, so I need to do what I need to do to, you know, make this happen.
You brought up so many different underlying points in that I hope y'all are paying attention, because you might miss it if you're not. But there, on the one hand, there's that I can do all things and I can handle everything, that causes us to not ask for help when we need it. In your case, you did go and apply for that assistance because you were under, you know, believing that I can handle all of this. I don't need to go to my family. But then on the other hand, there's also that, you know, not wanting to reach out for fear of judgment or things like that. So many different ways that can play out in different people's lives. So what would you say to the person that maybe is feeling a little overwhelmed and they're not really sure what to do? They don't necessarily want to let their family or friends know that they're dealing with something, but they don't necessarily want to reach out for public assistance of some sort, whatever that may be. What would be that piece of advice you would have for them?
Well, I'd say you got to figure it. You got to do something, because what's the alternative, right? Like, you don't want to ask for help over here, but you don't want to ask for help over here. Like, what's the alternative? You're just going to fall, right? And that's not necessarily an option. So first and foremost, it really is prioritization, right? Like, what is important to you right now, and what is going to give you the immediate help that you need to survive, right? Like, you have to survive. So what is the bare minimum that you need in order to do that? Figure that out and ask for help, whichever way that it is. So that's first and foremost. But the second thing that I would say is, you can't be afraid to fail. And I think that that's probably, in hindsight, where my biggest problems came in, because I was so afraid to fail and so afraid of, you know, not being Deandra, the good girl, Deandra that did everything in sequential order and all of that, it took a really long time for me to like just be okay with who I am and where I was. Not saying settle for where I was, but just realizing like, all right, D, it's okay. Like you'll get to where you need to be, but just take it day by day, one step at a time, keep going, and knowing that you have a bigger purpose to live for. So for the person that's, down and out and the rug has been pulled from underneath you and you are literally laying on the ground staring at the ceiling, as I did many days, and just crying, I would just cry. And my son would be in his crib next to me and I would be on the floor some days literally crying. But you have to give yourself a time limit. Like you can only soak in sorrow for so long before you do something. So say like you can have your pity party, but tomorrow be like, all right, tomorrow is a new day and I need to do 1, 2, and 3 in order to move myself forward. Just pick 3 things. That's it. It doesn't have to be a laundry list of stuff, because then you'll get overwhelmed and you'll feel like you can never move forward. Pick 3 things in a day that you want to do. And if you get to 2 of them, then great, you're doing something. If you get to all 3, then even better.
Yes, I love that you mentioned so many different things. So it sounds like you gave yourself grace, which I know a lot of people struggle with, just allowing themselves to be in that space and feel those emotions and say, it is okay. The things that I'm going through are okay. The struggles or, the defeat that I feel is okay. But the key thing is for a moment and not to live in that space, because oftentimes, sometimes we go through obstacles and we want to live in that area of victimization and say, woe is me, throw ourselves this long party. And we pray for someone to come and save us and just do all the things that we need. But a key thing that you pointed out was that you had your moment and then you decided to take action. And so it's very important that people recognize that key point is that you had a moment, then you made a choice to change your moment, and then you took action. And I talk about that a lot. And so what would you say was that biggest moment for you as far as moving into that action? Because I know sometimes people, they are like, well, I don't know what action to take. So what do I do?
When I get asked that question, there's not a definitive moment where I was like, all right, this is the action I'm going to take. It was trial and error. I would just throw stuff to the wall sometimes and see if it stuck. So I started selling life insurance. I can't even tell you the different jobs that I trying to find myself in those times that just didn't stick, but I would just do whatever. I was the person also who I sold all of my gold jewelry just to have money to eat the next day. Sometimes it was extreme measures like that. And I only kept 2 pieces that really had a sentimental value to me. But I don't have, even to this day, I have very few pieces of real jewelry. Like this ring, it was a ring given to me when my son was born. So this is a very special ring to me. And that's, and maybe 3 or 4 other pieces. I don't have everything's costume jewelry. Who the hell cares? It just is what it is, right? But I would say though, if I had one defining moment, it was when I had moved into my own apartment, and finally, and because I had gotten a settlement from a suit that I was involved in, right? So I had some money and I could move into my own apartment, but that didn't last very long. And I was still out of work and I had to apply for some program, and I can't really, it's not like HUD or anything like that. It was some special program that President Obama had just signed into action where you could apply for it and they would help pay your rent, right? So I got accepted into this program, but my caseworker worked out of a homeless shelter. And I had to go and visit her twice a week with my baby in tow. And I would sit in the waiting room, like whatever it was, literally elbow to elbow like this with my crying baby, with people who were even worse off than I was, homeless people. Like I was one step above homeless, literally, right? So I was really no different than the people who were there at the shelter, getting food and having a place to stay dry and all of that. I was elbow to elbow and knee to knee with these people. And I think that was probably the most defining moment for me, when I would have to drive to the homeless shelter, right? In my Audi, right? Because that was the car that I had when I was living the life, right? And it was paid for. So it was like I couldn't get rid of it, because then I'd have no transportation. So I'm the girl driving up to the homeless shelter, needing this help in an Audi. And, I would sit there and I'd be like, people on the outside, this does not make any sense to people who are looking. But to me, it made all of the sense in the world, right? But the fact that I was in this place, I knew then that I was like, Deandra, you cannot stay here. Like, this ain't for you, girl. You know what I mean? Like, this is not what your son is going to grow up knowing. So you have got to get your stuff together, and you've got to do it quickly, right? And so that probably was the biggest defining moment for me, and the one that really stands out amongst all of the muck, right, that I've been through. That is pretty defining for me. And from there, I wish I could really say, okay, so here's step 1, and here's step 2, and here's step 3. It didn't work that way. It was like a zigzag pattern, and like stuff worked over here that didn't work over there. And I would shift and adjust and iterate and all of this sort of stuff. But eventually I found my way.
And I think that that's important that you pointed that out, that it wasn't a step 1, 2, 3, because sometimes that not having that exact game plan holds people back from taking any action at all. And then they're confused why they're either in the same place 5 years from now or in a worse off place than what they desire. And so it's good that you mentioned that, because oftentimes there is no blueprint. Like, especially when thinking about life as a whole, there is no blueprint. There is no real life manual 101. Like, it's not a course that we can sign up for and have all the steps. But what's important is that you took consistent action. And that's what all the listeners, I hope you're picking up on, is that you made a choice and took consistent action, even if you didn't know what that action would lead to. And then you tweaked and improved from there to get to where you are today.
Yeah, and you just gotta move. Movement. Like, that's what it is.
And we're going to talk about that. But before we get into that, I think that this is an absolutely great time to find out
what's in your cup.
I love it.
Yes. So if you've never watched the show, then this is the part of the show where we find out what's in your cup. So make sure you put in the comments whatever you're sipping on at home. And if you don't have a drink, then put what you wish you were sipping on or what you're going to fix yourself after the show is over. But first, my guest is going to share what's in her cup, and then she's going to give us a little cup cam, and then I will share mine as well. So, Ms. Deandra, tell us what's in your cup.
So tonight I am drinking spiced rum, neat. I'm a rum drinker. And every time, so it's funny, every time like I have some sort of fruity drink, it's always just like a waste of calories for me. So I just drink my rum straight a lot of times. Plus it's cold here. It snowed yesterday. So this is the perfect winter night drink for me tonight. So it is my spiced rum.
Warm. Yes, and you got it in the classic drink cup, right?
Yeah.
So today, I'm a little on the goofy side. I've got my SpongeBob mug here. And I am sipping on ginger turmeric tea. So I usually like to do something nice and fun in my drink, but I've already had a whole bunch of sugary drinks all today. Yeah, and so I wasn't thinking about what day
Yeah.
it is. My day's been off probably this whole COVID, and I'm like, what day is it again? And so then I was like, I cannot take one more sugary drink. 'Cause I'm the opposite of you. I like my drinks with all the extra fruits and all the extra
Got
calories.
it. Yeah, yeah.
The better. I am such a baby. I cannot drink. I'm the one that's making all the faces and like, give me a chaser after a
Oh,
shot.
that's so funny. Yeah.
So I was like, I need to wind it down before my body is like, Lindsey, cut it out.
Yeah, what's going on?
With some nice soothing tea here. Like my
Love
tongue
it.
is probably still blue. Uh-huh. See that I had less than an hour ago.
That's hilarious.
Yes. Oh my goodness. So crazy. So make sure that you put at home down in the comments what you are drinking on. And meanwhile, we are going to get back into this conversation. So you had that down and out moment. You had to go apply for government assistance. You were sitting at the homeless shelter, elbow to elbow with your son in tow, holding in your arms. But then you took action and things started to change. And now you're the successful woman that we see here today. Not that you weren't successful before, but even at another level, you are today. So tell us about that. What was that journey like to get to where you are today?
Yeah, so it wasn't easy. The journey there wasn't easy either. So I took my design skills and talents and turned them into a fantastic, very quick moving career in home staging and interior design ultimately. So I got certified as a home stager back in 2009. You know, I was like, oh, I don't really know what I'm going to do with this. And it wasn't until, again, I had like a myriad of different jobs that I sold solar panels. Like I hated it because I'm not a salesperson, right? I was selling life insurance. Everything had sales, and I'm the most terrible salesperson in the world because I'm like, do you want it? If not, okay, fine, whatever. Like I'm not trying to sit here and sell to you, right? Terrible salesperson. So I was like, you need to use your other talents because this is not it for you, girlfriend. This is not working. So anyways, I had just found a job, literally. Like I was working there for less than a month. And my son got hit in the head with a basketball in school at recess. And 2 days later, he started having concussive symptoms and like had the worst concussion. For 3 months. He was only cleared to go to school for half days. Like, and I was his only caretaker. And so I had to quit this job that I had just found a month prior because I had to literally, like, he would not even make it until noon at school. I was picking him up at like 10 o'clock every day. So I had to quit the job. And I had to find a way to make ends meet again, right? And so I started freelancing in the home staging industry, and it was a godsend. I quickly went from a god-awful company that I was working for just to make ends meet to working for the biggest home staging company in the DC area, and quickly became a senior project manager and was managing their the installation of their high-end luxury homes, right? So it was just like a quick trajectory. That's where, you know, my work was featured in the Washington Post, and I started honing my skills, and my personal business started growing because I was doing freelance work in the home staging industry. So I started doing a lot of interior design work, and my business it blew up. And that is, you know, I started winning awards and being recognized for things. And it's often the thing that happens that you think is the worst thing possible that leads you to the best thing that could ever happen for you, right? And so, though I hate that my son had to have this concussion, I would not have quit that job that I was working had he not had it. And had I not had to find a way to make ends meet, I would not have entered this world at all. And so that's when life really started taking a turn and a change. And I will tell you, that was only 5 years ago. Only 5 years ago, right? So that was 2015, 2016 when things started taking a turn. And within 2 years, my business had grown immensely. And at the same time, I was also in school full time getting my MBA because I'm just a learning junkie. Like, that's just who I am. So I'm taking care of my son full time with his concussions. I'm working and I'm in school full time. And from there, like, life just catapulted me after I graduated early with my MBA. So I've held positions like COO and vice president of staging and design for companies. And life just kind of started taking on its own, by design, I will say, but its own kind of form.
Yeah. So listen, you've got all the things in your life story, and it's so important that these are pointed out in case you missed it. For the folks in the balcony, you're watching the Happy Hour Show with Lindsey Vertner, my special guest, Miss Deandra Coleman, and you have shared so much already. And I think it's important to point out that, one, we already talked about how you made a decision and you kept going, but then you mentioned how, had that traumatic moment not happened, you wouldn't be where you are today. Because sometimes we look at the losses in our lives or the struggles or obstacles in our lives and we say, why me? But there comes a point whenever you have to give your pain permission to evolve into something greater. And then you have to know that there is purpose in the pain that you're going through, even if you don't see it clearly right now, but you have to be the one to take action and pivot. So you had many pivots. One, when you first had your son and you applied for government assistance, and then you're getting back on your feet, and then you had to pivot again when your son had that traumatic accident with the basketball. So many different things. And what's important that some people may not have caught is that you didn't make excuses. Because oftentimes people make excuses, their education or lack of money or where they come from or being a single mom. So just dive a little bit into that, because #no excuses.
I would say that that's just my perfectionism and overachiever tendencies. Like, I will own it, right? Like, that is just who I am at the core. It's funny, I made a post today talking about getting over my superwoman complex. That is a very real thing that I have suffered from for so very long. And I turn 40 next year. And as I approach 40, certain things are just like, it's just not where I want my life to be. I don't want to do all the things anymore. That's not I just don't want to, right? I don't have the desire to do all of the things. And when 5 years ago, though, I was still in that mode where I was like, yeah, like, this isn't going to stop me. I'm going to do it, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do this, and then I'm not going to sleep, and then I'm going to do this, right? Like, that's just how I operated. But that really is me from very young. Like, I told you where I grew up, like, it was just ingrained in me, right? Like, you have to do above and beyond and be better than you were the day before and better than the next person. And if you're not, you are not doing something correctly. Like, you are failing. So those are my own tendencies. But I will say, though, that I say reinvention is the spice of life. You cannot be afraid to reinvent yourself. And you have the prerogative to do it. If you were somebody yesterday and you want to be somebody different today, it is well within your rights to pivot and reinvent yourself. And, yesterday, you may have been a mechanic, and today you won't be a doctor, but you could be on the pathway to being a doctor. You know what I mean? Like, who cares? It's your right to do so. And that's probably what I would say to folks who are concerned about, what it's going to look like to the outside world, or like, who cares? Right? Like, what feels good to you, and who is it that you really want to be? And you get to refine that day in and day out until you really get down to the person who you truly want to be. And that's just it.
I love that. I absolutely love that. And because you redefined yourself, you are doing some amazing things. One of them is mentoring young women with your YES program, which is called Youth Embracing Success. And so tell us a little bit about that and why did you decide to create this program?
Yeah, so the YES program is so near and dear to my heart. I really created it because for young women, especially young Black women, they don't get to see that, whatever you want to do in life is really and truly possible. And to be shoulder to shoulder with somebody who has been really down and out, and like been through all of the struggles. Um, so it's important for me to really just kind of impart that knowledge and confidence in the girls. And YES is Youth Embracing Success, right? That's the acronym. And so I've worked and I've partnered with the Boys and Girls Club, which was super fantastic. And, we had summer programs where the girls would come once a week and we'd have different topics. I taught them about meditation and they would discuss, certain feelings. These were middle school girls. And as we all know, middle school is like a really weird kind of phase for girls especially. And so it just was such a profound and endearing thing to my heart, to be able to work with these girls. So the YES program is super, I wish that I could work with more, you know what I mean? But it's a finite group of girls that I was able to work with. And if it grows into something else later on down the line, I'd be really excited for that to happen. But with the girls and the Boys and Girls Club that I worked in, it was a fantastic experience.
Awesome. Awesome. That is amazing. And I know that on your website, you have a quote that says, "A woman's story is her most powerful asset." Tell us the meaning about that quote and why you chose to display that.
Yeah. So I call it your comeback story. So the women that I work with now, again, I have pivoted from interior design because that is a very labor intensive industry. And I am all things design. And so now I brand designs, I do brand strategy. A lot of what I did before was rooted in that. My MBA is in branding and entrepreneurship. So I'm utilizing those skill sets and that passion, but I call it your comeback story. And when you have been through the bowels of life and you have gone from surviving to thriving, you have a comeback story. And for a woman in business, that is what you should lead with. Because once you start telling your story, you give other people permission to walk in theirs, right? So telling these vulnerable stories about the darkest times of your life, it's not necessarily fun. And reliving it is not necessarily something you want to do, right? But it gives other people permission to say, hey, it's okay that I went through this. And it also calls in your tribe of people who will follow you and who will be the ones to support your brand and to purchase from you. And so I work with women who have a surviving to thriving comeback story, and they're ready to really utilize it in a way that is part of their messaging and content and their brand strategy. And so a woman's story is her most powerful asset. I say that because literally all of your business can stem from that one story. And that is how you call in your tribe of people who will pay you for your services.
Yes, yes. And that is so true. Like even with my business, very similar as far as finding the purpose in the pain, because in 2007, I was in a fatal car wreck where I was pronounced brain dead and paralyzed. And it was during that recovery process that led me to fully walking in my purpose as a peak potential strategist and speaker today. And there was some times where that's not what I wanted to focus on in my business. But every time I did, I was elevated to the next level.
Yep.
And I made more impact whenever I would use that story. And of course, I've been through other things in my life. And when it's time for those stories, I share them But my signature story is that 2007 wreck, which was truly the catalyst and the turning point of what I was living to what I live today, and very, very impactful. And I can take it in so many different angles that that it never gets old. And even when people have heard it time and time again, it still amazes me how they'll come to me and they'll be like, I've heard your story this many times now.
Right.
It's like the first time.
Yeah.
So that's why it's important to heal those traumas and those negative experiences that you've been through so that you can utilize it as part of your powerful asset and your branding. Even for those of you that are watching that aren't entrepreneurs and don't have businesses, you still have a story to tell, and it's still a part of your personal brand.
Yeah.
So, Miss Deandra, we know that you are the personal branding queen. So share a few tips on, how can we take our story and then turn it into our personal brand to help us get to that next level?
Yeah. So the first step I always say is this is a prerequisite, right? So Deandra, who likes to learn all the things and be in school all the time, right? Prereq, right? So you have to, like you said, Lindsey, you have to heal that pain first. You cannot move forward in a place of purpose and impact and influence if you have not healed those traumas. Yep. So I say, do the work, get a therapist, do mindset work, whatever it is that you need to do to heal those pains before you move forward with trying to tell your story and turn it into some sort of profitable business, right? Because you're going to have to relive those moments over and over and over if this is what you're leading with. And if you have not healed it, you can shed a tear, but you can't be on stage like broken down on the floor. You know what I mean? Like you can't do that, girl. Like you can't do that, right? So heal yourself first. So that is the prereq to the work, okay? But the first step that I would say is really learning how to write your comeback story. And I mean literally write it, not just be able to verbalize it, but getting it down on paper in a sequential order that makes sense. Okay, so it has to make sense to people in order for you to tell the story, because what is in your mind and what makes sense in your mind when you try to speak it or to tell it, it may not make sense in that way. So you have to literally get it down on paper. So you have to learn how to write your comeback story. And so that's step one. Step two is really, you've got to learn how to take your story and match it with what you want your external brand to be. That's step two. And what I mean by that is, who are you, right? So you have this story. It has shaped you and formed you. So step two is really figuring out now, who are you from this story, and what is the forward-facing and client-facing image that you want to portray based on this story, right? So that's all of your brand identity stuff. And one of my biggest pet peeves, and the hill that I will die on, is when people say branding is your logo, your fonts, and your website. That ain't it. That's one bit.
For part of branding.
Right, exactly. That is not it. You have to get down to who you are, your values, what you want to impart in the world, the legacy that you want to leave on the world, right? So that's step two. And then step three is extracting your messaging from your comeback story. And that's a little bit more complicated, because extracting your messaging really also depends on who your ideal client is and how they need to receive their information, right? Because if you are in business to make money, and you have to have people to sell to in order to make money. And the way that you are going to reach them, and the way that the people will want to give you their money willingly, is by connecting with them with the right messaging and content. So you have your story well written and developed. you then have who you are and who you want to be with your brand values, your goals, your legacy that you want to live, your purpose. And then you extract your messaging and content to match how your target audience receives their information.
Sweet.
So those are the steps.
Sweet.
Building a brand. Yes.
And listen, again, even if you aren't an entrepreneur or a business owner, you still have a personal brand. You know, I talk about that with my clients because sometimes I have the female entrepreneurs, but then sometimes I have the female leaders who don't have a business, but they are still very ambitious and busy in their own way. Yep. And, you know, sometimes we'll be talking about branding and they'll be like, well, I don't have a business. And I'll say those exact things like, it's not about having a business. You have a personal and professional brand, period. Business owner, not, because it's just a matter of, does your professional brand work for you or for someone else that you're clocking in for? And then every single last one of us has a personal brand. Like, how do our friends see us? How do our community sees us? And exactly. Things like that. So you are right on point. And thank you so much for sharing those tips.
Yeah. And your brand, whether you have a business or it's a personal brand. So it's your brand is what other people say about you, right? Mm-hmm. But you get to shape that narrative. And I think that that's what most people miss out on. They miss that they get to shape the narrative of how people perceive them in order for them to formulate their own idea of who you are in their mind. And then, you know, your brand is what people say about you. So whether it's a business, whether it's your personal brand, like you said, leaders in the community, whether you're, you know, just a pastor at a church, you know, but you don't have a business necessarily, right? But you still have a brand. You still have an image that you are portraying. And everybody, I believe, can benefit from a personal brand strategist. Even on the smallest level, I think that everybody can benefit from one.
So true. So true. And if you are just tuning in, make sure you go back and catch the replay of everything we have already discussed, because we are almost nearing the hour and you are watching the Happy Hour Show with Lindsey Vertner and my very special guest, Miss Deandra Coleman. And for right now, I think that this would be a great time to play a little game, okay?
30-second hot shot. Answer the question in 30 seconds or less, or take your shot.
Yeah. This is the part of the show where Miss Deandra gets to answer your questions live, and she has 30 seconds to do it, okay? This is the 30-second hot shot segment, and if she doesn't get it in 30 seconds, then she's got to take her shot. Of her spiced rum. And so let me pull up my timer. This is how it will work. I have my handy dandy timer here. I'm going to set it to 30 seconds right now. I'm going to read the question, have a little pause, and then I'm going to give you the start, and you got 30 seconds, okay?
Okay.
You ready?
I'm ready.
All right. Game on. So the first question is, how did you come up with the name 6 Zeros Studio?
Oh, that's easy. 6 zeros is what's in $1 million. So if you want to scale your business to $1 million, you need to be part of my brand strategy program. That is what you need.
Hey, with 15 seconds left to spare. Yes, we all love some 6 zeros, right?
Yeah. So
the next question is, what is the biggest obstacle that you had to overcome on your journey? Go.
Oh, that's not a fair question. I think the biggest obstacle was probably my worthiness, because and understanding that I was worthy of more, because I felt like a failure when, you know, I had my son and I had to be on government assistance. I felt like I was not doing what I was supposed to do in life, and that's why I was there. And so it led to a lot of worthiness issues. And even to this day, though I am not where I was. Oh, do I have to stop? Like, this is a lesson. Oh no, okay.
However, that was actually a very good question because a lot of people struggle with worthiness. So I'm going to allow you to finish that.
Okay, I'll quickly, right? So
No,
even though I'm not where I was before, there is still muscle memory that happens where I know, like deep down, I know that I'm okay, but I still wake up at 4:30 in the morning with anxiety, and I'm like, let me check my bank account. You know what I mean? Because it's just this. There's always this feeling in the back of your mind once you've been through these things that something else is like what's on the verge, you know? And so it's a mindset thing that I have to work on a daily basis to manage my anxiety levels and to manage, you know, knowing that I'm not where I was and I'm okay. Like, Deandra, you are okay. So worthiness, I would say, is the short answer, but the long answer is, you know, everything I just word vomited to you.
No, it was all good because, you know, I work a lot with the ambitious, busy female entrepreneurs and leaders. And so there's something that I call the 3 pillars of self-care, self-worth, and self-discipline.
Yeah.
And, you know, most people would be surprised how many successful women still have these feelings of being not good enough. And so I'm glad you shared that because somebody out there is just like you. They have all the things, so to speak, but then on the inside, they're feeling like, you know, am I really worthy of this? And it's
when is this going to go away? Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Be like Cinderella at midnight. Yep.
Yes. Yes. And so, there was one more question, and I noticed that, like, I wrote them all upside down when I
okay.
Hashtag no judgment zone on the happy hour show. So the last question that was submitted says, what is the biggest piece of advice that you have for single moms looking to elevate to the next level?
First, I would say give yourself grace. You have to know that you are doing a fantastic job. And wherever you are in that moment, your child loves you, your child needs you, and you are a fantastic mom. So give yourself that credit and give yourself that grace. Then I'm going to give you the tough love. If you want to elevate, you need to figure out what you want to do. And I don't mean that for the next 10 years. What do you want to do in a year from now? Start there and start taking the steps necessary to getting there. So whether you need to go back to school, I always say start with the end in mind and then work your way backwards. So if it's, you know, getting your degree, okay, great. What does that mean? What do you need to do? What schools do you need to research? What do you want to study? Which schools have that program? And work your way backwards from there. So I always say, and it might sound harsh, right? But at the end of the day, being a single mom or having all of these struggles and all of the things is the so what of life after a certain point. It's the so what. Like, everybody has something. So what, right? It's really, how do you move past that so what? So just make a plan. And if it changes, it's okay, but just have something in place. But give yourself grace first. You're doing a great job. You really are.
Perfectly said. Yes. So what? What now? What now? That's the question that you need to be saying. So what? What now?
What now?
What do now?
Yeah.
And you are the perfect example of what to do now. Taking that consistent action once you've made a decision. Stop using the obstacles that you've been through, whether that's being a single mom or having no money or having no education or whatever other excuse that you are playing in your mind to hold you back. Like, take yourself out of that victim mode and say, I will no longer be a victim to my circumstances. Instead, I'm going to be a victor over my obstacles. But first, that comes with making the choice to do that. And then comes with taking consistent action towards changing that situation.
Yep, absolutely.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Now, I am all about living a first-class life, which means you are intentional about the quality of life that you are living. You are intentional about creating happiness in every moment that you can. It's about shedding those masks of fear and doubt and shedding those masks of living up to expectations of other people and who they want us to be. And instead, walking boldly and unapologetically in who you are, flaws and all. So I have to ask all of my guests this signature question, and it's, how do you intentionally create happiness in your life?
Ooh, I love this. Let's see, what do I do on a daily basis? So I'm very intentional about my time. I don't start work until 10 o'clock in the morning. I don't start meetings, like client-facing meetings, until 10:30. And I only do those on Mondays and Wednesdays, right? That's it. And then Tuesdays and Thursdays are like working in my business. And then largely I take off on Fridays. Don't call me. Don't call me unless it's an emergency. Don't bother me. Don't call me after 4 p.m. I'll talk to you in the morning. It's not that urgent. Like, we're not saving lives here, right? Like, it's branding. You'll be okay. Right? Like, that's just too. So I'm very intentional about my time, because time is the one commodity that you can never get back. You can make more money, right? You don't get back time. So I'm very intentional about my time, and that makes me happy. I also don't care that, like, the experts say, like, oh, those who watch TV are never successful. I am a Real Housewives person. I watch all of the trash, except for like Love and Hip Hop, because I feel like I lose brain cells when I watch those types of shows. Real Housewives, like all of the reality TV stuff. I just finished watching The Family Chantel, the second season. All of those things make me happy. And then my bed makes me happy. I'm typically like, I'll turn off my lights downstairs and I'll go and just like spend the rest of the night in my bed at like 7:30, 8 o'clock at night. I don't have any problems with it. Like, it's great. But yeah, those are some of the things that make me happy. But on a daily basis, there has to be laughter, right? Intentional about laughter, intentional about some sort of self-care. So whether that's taking a bath or, vegging out with something, like I said, watching TV, to me, that's self-care. But those are the things that make me happy. And playing with my dog and my son, he's 12 now, so he doesn't really like hanging around mom anymore. I see him like 3 times a day. But other than that, hanging out with the people that I love really, really makes me happy.
And I love that you are unapologetically you, which is what living a first-class life is all about. My son is 11, so I totally get that. You're still alive in there? Like, he'll pop out for dinner.
It's terrible.
Oh, man. So thank you so much. You have been an awesome, awesome guest. And if you missed it, make sure you go back and watch the replay. Make sure you comment, love, share this video out, and all the goodness. Make sure you follow our beautiful guest, Miss Deandra Coleman, right there, your personal brand strategist and manager. Her website is www.6zerostudio.com. That's the number 6 zeros spelled out, studio.com. And you can find her on Instagram at Deandra Coleman. I was about to say .com. And I know that you have a summit coming up. So go ahead and tell the people about the summit.
Yes, I'm so excited about this. So February 1st through 6th of 2021, we are leaving all of the crap of 2020 in the past. So all of the stuff that happened this year, plus all of your crappy brands in the past, right? So we are having a personal branding summit where each day a different expert in branding will be speaking to the guests. And then on the last day, we'll have an all-panel Q&A discussion. So any of your brand strategy questions you can bring. We'll have copywriters, brand photographers, video production people. We'll have celebrity wardrobe stylists to get your brand, dressing for your brand and your body together. All of the things that make up a personal brand or a business brand we will have during the summit. So it is a 6-day summit. It is completely free for you to attend. You just need to go to 60studio.com/the summit and register, and you will be in the house. And I am uber excited for it because these are all such high caliber women who work in branding every single day, and they are going to impart their knowledge and wisdom, and it is going to be an awesome, awesome event.
Yes, I love it. I love it. You see it there on the screen. So make sure you take a screenshot of that and go up. It is no cost. So all of you that complain about not having the budget to do all the things, here is do something, start there, and watch your budget increase gradually. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you again for being a phenomenal guest, Miss Deandra. And for you at home, make sure you sign up for updates at bit.ly/happy updates. You see it scrolling right down the screen. And that way you can stay updated on all things Happy Hour Show and get the recaps of the episode and see who's coming up in the season. And also, sometimes my guests like to share a happy hour special, but only if you're on the VIP list. So again, sign up for updates at bit.ly/happy updates. And I pray that you have a very, very, very awesome evening. Catch us next Tuesday at 9 p.m. Eastern, where I'll be back with another guest. And until then, I bid you farewell. All right. Bye.